Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is "We Belong to One Another," a hymn by Amanda Diaz-Kessler. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please use with a mask. Stand in body and spirit and join us in singing the hymn, "We Belong to One Another."
We belong to one another, to each other we are bound, as we build a world together, full of joy that we have found. What we are, we owe to others. When they need us, we respond. We belong to one another, and we hold a common bond. We rely on one another at the dawning of our days, when we learn from those around us how to live in loving ways. As we grow, we need each other and the gifts that we can share. As our lives come to their ending, how we need each other's care. We give thanks for one another, for each heart and hand and face. We are grateful for the blessings that infuse our lives with grace. May we offer our abundance as we're given. May we give in our thanks for one another. May we help each other live.
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and hosting these services on your YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I am Linda Van Voris, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee that make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music director, Adam Wedeking, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system, and Grace, who will be reading today's sermon. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. We invite you to leave your worries and defenses at the door and trust that what happens in worship is inspiring and powerful. Today, we affirm this day, and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser as we begin a new day and a new week. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we're in the sanctuary, please keep your masks on while singing or chanting, and let's all take personal responsibility to keep both ourselves and each other's safe. Before we move into the service, there are a few announcements I would like to share. We will mention several websites, email address, and phone number. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all this information, and it is also available on our website. First announcement is that Roy Zimmerman will be in here in concert next Saturday at 7:30. Roy's signature blend of heart and hilarity has never been more necessary. In a career spanning more than 30 years, Roy's songs have been heard on HBO, Showtime, and his videos have garnered hundreds of millions of views. Roy co-writes these songs with his wife, Melanie Harvey. Their song parody, Vote Him Away, The Liar's Tweet Tonight, has had over 140 million views online. Tickets are $25 and are available through the church office or on our social media, which has a link to pay directly or by using a QR code. Next week is our first Sunday lunch. Don't forget to join us after the service. Next week, we will be having Mexican favorites in honor of Cinco de Mayo. A Course of Miracles book, course, that's a little awkward, but okay. We'll start next Friday on May 5th at 10 a.m. in the Annex. Anyone who is interested in learning more may contact myself or Avery Burrows. The current meeting time is flexible and may be changed to accommodate any other members. And if you're interested in more information on what the Course of Miracles is, please see me as well. There it goes. Yep. Yep. If I pause, please forgive me. I'm having trouble with the mouse, or the mouse is having trouble with me. I'm not sure which. I would now like to call up Adam Wedeking, the chair of our Social Environmental Justice Committee, to tell us about an upcoming event.
Good morning. Tomorrow, May 1st, is May Day, International Labor Day. For those of you who aren't aware, we're not, we have our own Labor Day here in the United States, but internationally, labor is celebrated on May 1st. And tomorrow here in Riverside, there's going to be a march for labor rights and immigration rights, starting at the new library that's down the street from here at 10:30 in the morning. Everybody is welcome to come and show your support. Our church will be open during that time because we will pass by here. So we'll be open for restrooms and water. But everybody is invited to come out. There's a bit.ly here, bit.ly, i.e. May Day, if you'd like to sign up or just show up tomorrow at 10:30. Yeah, Pat. May Day is International Labor Day. It is mostly about labor rights. Yeah, it's also become a day for immigration rights as well. And the Immigrant Youth Collective is part of setting this up. They're the ones that contacted us about having a space open for restrooms. So that will all be included in the march. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So hopefully I see all of you tomorrow at 10:30, or at least tomorrow at 11 when you pass by here, because I will be here with the open church. Thanks.
Adam, where are they walking to? Okay, thank you. That's fine. A service and silent auction will be held in May. We currently have classes in drumming, jewelry making, and paisanki, Ukrainian-style egg decorating, being offered. See Kate if you have something you would like to donate or a service you would like to offer. Kate's back at the piano, or the soundboard. Well, I can tell you a family barbecue will be held at 3 p.m. on Memorial Day, Monday, May 29th. Ticket, it says Monday, May 29th on here. Sorry, May 30th. Okay. Tickets are $25 per adults, 12 for children ages 6 to 15, and $12 for children ages 6 to 15, and ages 5 and under are free. If you start up here, it will probably work, Trace. This concludes the announcements for today. And now I invite you to sit back and take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today's reading is a sermon written by Sally Patton. Sally Patton, M.E.D., is a Unitarian Universalist who has advocated for children labeled as disabled for 35 years. She is an author of several books, including Don't Fix Me, I'm Not Broken, and Welcoming Children with Special Needs, a guidebook for faith communities. Am I reading this? Because there's nothing in here that says that. No. Okay. I'll try to do this with the mic. I'm going to have to get it. Well, I can use a tablet. Good. God makes no mistakes, creating community for all our children. Our UU principles encourage us to manifest equity and compassion in our relationships, and to accept one another in spiritual growth. In our faith communities, we strive to understand and accept those who may have seemingly different perspectives from our own. This includes children. All of our children, not just the ones some of us parent or the ones we happen to know, but all our children have volumes to teach us if we are willing to listen and learn. Welcome all children into our faith communities is an act of radical hospitality. We have two lightings of the sacred flame. One is the first is the occupied Indigenous peoples' remembrance candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. For the Indigenous people, we walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign people, the original people of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was the first sacred space of several groups of Indigenous people, including the Kihia, the Capano, and the Serrano. We, the Universe Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as stewards of this sacred and holy place. We also have a reading too. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is 8 Principles in Action by Kahailu Bordner. I invite you to join me in reading the bold italicized lines projected on the screen. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light our chalice in honor of the principles of our shared Unitarian Universalist faith, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Respect, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations is determined by those with privilege and power to extend the frameworks from which these are received. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations requires all to actively engage in ensuring conditions supported all. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning is a challenge, ever-changing, all-encompassing call we must make answer. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large is about inclusive structures and communities that provide space for all. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all can only be reached through intentional co-liberation for all. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part asks us to remember that each and every creature is embodiment of the love of the universe, and each of us must act accordingly. Journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, cultural, beloved community by our actions that must accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Must be led by those we have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about the church. We ask you to step close to the mark and speak directly into it and clearly so everyone can hear. However, be aware you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have any church members who would like to volunteer? Pat, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Pat Cowonder, and I'm the president of the board of the church. And I've been away. I was at San Luis Obispo last week for the regional meeting of Unitarians, and it was wonderful. I'm supposed to say how I found out about this church. I started taking Tai Chi classes in 1985 in Parish Hall on Saturday mornings. And from there, this is a great place. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. That's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. If there is someone online who would like to introduce themselves, please raise your hand on Zoom and we will call on you. Please let us know who you are, where you are from, and how you found out about us. Yes, sir. Ma'am, sorry. I need my glasses too.
No worries. Hi. Good morning. My name is Sarah Fulmer, and I'm from Portland, Oregon, but I go to school at the University of Redlands. And I have been part of a Unitarian Universalist church since I was born in Portland, Oregon. And I felt like I kind of missed this community and kind of doing something outside of my normal college life. And so this morning I was like, maybe we have a week before my May term started. And I was like, I'm going to go check it out. And so I looked up this place online and then just kind of showed up. So that's my story.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, please. You're the anybody else.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Alan Ridley, and I live in San Diego. I'm visiting my 103-year-old mother here in Riverside. And I first found out about this church through a friend in high school. I was brought up Methodist, but I came to this location, this church, and my friend was singing Jumpin' Jack Flash on this stage, on this pulpit, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I kind of became a Unitarian. And I also have a foundation for economic justice in San Diego. And we try to only solve half the world's problems at a time. So we leave half of the other problems for the next time we meet.
Welcome and thank you. We invite you all, guests who have spoken and any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee after the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors' books. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, and leave your contact information if you want to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Our next hymn is Spirit of Life. 123 in your gray hymnal, if you wish to follow musically along.
Of compassion,
where we share our monetary givings. Today is the last Sunday of the month where we hold our monthly 50-50 donation for a worthy cause. What organization is more worthy than the maintenance fund for the upkeep of our beautiful church? We will now have Avery Burrow come up and speak to us on the ongoing maintenance projects and repairs needed here at UUCR.
Good morning. I'm Avery, for anyone who doesn't know me, and I'm the 50-50 speaker on behalf of the Maintenance Committee at UUCR. I'd like to see a show of hands of all who think the UUCR church doesn't need extensive upkeep maintenance. Ha ha ha. Well, be informed, it does. Through a series of oversights, insufficient effort, lack of funds, we're behind at least 20 years on maintenance. We appreciate your support and your recyclables. Thanks.
Thank you, Avery. That was very appreciated. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is also shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater Brothers cards, which we will have in the church each Sunday. You get the full value of the card, and the church also gets a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe to purchase the gift cards. Dinah, that's Dinah Rowe for, thank you. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give their time and talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection?
As the collection goes around, the plate is for the collection. We also have a reusable shopping bag that will go around if anybody's brought anything to donate for our community pantry or work that the Social Justice Committee does.
Thank you again for all of your service and your generosity. As I wasn't aware of the food collections, I guess it's only something new, I'm going to go ahead and announce it again. Weekly, we will be collecting canned goods and dry goods and hygiene products for the homeless in the community, or also those in need, not just the homeless. This is done through the Social Justice Committee, so please keep that in mind the times that you come in the future. Thank you. Our next hymn is 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with a mask on. Please stand and embody your spirit and join us in singing hymn 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive,
Our meditation today is by Gary Kowalski. Sit back, relax, get in a comfortable position, whatever that is for you. Children widen the circle of our being in ways that are limitless. Every baby that's born connects us to our history, our own parents, grandparents, and unknown forebears who brought new life into the world in each successive generation. Every baby that's born links us to the future, to a world yet to come that belongs to our descendants and that we hold in trust for our prosperity, to whom we will never know. Each child connects us to nature, to the innocence and exuberance of a world always hatching newborns, kittens and puppies and lambs and babes. Each child reminds us of the kinship we share with people of other lands and races who love their young as purely and as tenderly as we do. Each child connects us to the universe, to the holy mysteries of birth and death, and becoming, from which we all emerge. Children widen the circle of our being in ways that are limitless. Now let us pause for a moment of silence. Now I would like to introduce Grace Prius reading the sermon, God Makes No Mistakes, Creating Beloved Community for All Our Children. These words are written by Sally Patton. Please note the sermon does not necessarily reflect the views of the reader. Grace?
Thank you, Linda. God makes no mistakes, creating beloved community for all of our children. God, or however you wish to name the divine, does not make mistakes. What does this mean? What does this mean when a mother gives birth to a child with mental retardation or cerebral palsy? What does this mean when a child is in an accident and becomes seriously physically impaired? What does this mean when our schools increasingly teach to standardize tests at the expense of creative learning and all those children who learn differently? What does this mean when more and more children are born within the autism spectrum? The list could go on and on. That question was asked me last year by a mother attending one of my workshops on spiritual parenting. She arrived angry and spent much of the workshop crying. Her son Tim was 6 and had cerebral palsy. She described him lovingly as full of energy and a dynamo on wheels. Tim sometimes involuntarily jerks his hands and his body, as do many people with cerebral palsy. The mother had just received in the email a Xerox copy picturing the front of Tim's teacher's chest, which showed a large red stain on her white shirt. The note scribbled on the bottom from the principal said that Tim's behavior was highly unacceptable and would not be tolerated. Evidently, as a result of an involuntary spasm, Tim had knocked the juice cup from his teacher's hands, which spilled on her blouse. She immediately assumed he had done it on purpose and he was punished. All of us in the workshop sat in stunned silence, which eventually erupted into immense anger and an outpouring of stories of adults who do not see children as children, but only what is wrong with them. Now, none of us in that room believed Tim was a mistake, especially his mom. But there was a huge question as to why Tim and children like him have to struggle so with a disability and then have to put up with other people's misunderstandings and prejudices. I was hard-pressed to answer the mother's question, what does that mean, God does not make mistakes? Though at the time I shared the mother's anger, somewhere deep inside, perhaps that still small voice within acknowledged, God does not make mistakes. And so I continued my spiritual journey toward understanding this belief, which started with my son, Tyler. Tyler, at age 5, began to have difficulty in school, which eventually led to a diagnosis of multiple learning disabilities. I initially thought, well, I'll fix this. This led to 2 years of fighting with the school system and trying to understand the problem. It left me feeling as if I was in a desert of no beginnings and no endings. Desperate to get out, I embarked on a spiritual quest to nurture my own healing. It eventually led to the writing of my book and an awareness that it was not Tyler I had to change, but myself. Trina Tremblay in the book, Will You Dream New Dreams, says, never, ever forget that you have been chosen for this very special journey. It matters not what the challenges may be. What matters is that you open your heart to this child. For as difficult as things may get, you will discover that this soul, wrapped in the precious little package, has much to give and volumes to teach you about yourself. You are willing to learn. All our children, not just the ones some of us parent or the ones we happen to know, but all of our children have volumes to teach us if we are willing to listen and learn. Over 1,500 years ago, Benedict wrote a short, simple document about hospitality called The Rule to guide monks living in monasteries during which time were small communities of 15 or so people. The Rule has endured over time and shapes most of Western monasticism. Saint Benedict believed in order to grow as a human being, you need other people. To be a person of great spirit cannot be done alone. Saint Benedict's rule of radical hospitality offers a wonderful model for individuals and faith communities to live by. Adapting the practice of Saint Benedict's radical hospitality leads to the creation of a beloved community in which the different, those who appear strange, and those who are marginalized are welcome and accepted. Saint Benedict's hospitality is a way of love. Saint Benedict asks that we see the divine in every single adult and child that we encounter. Father Daniel Holman, in his book, Radical Hospitality, Benedict's Way of Love, says that Saint Benedict's hospitality is not about social graces. It is about mutual reverence. In our faith communities, it is about accepting those who are different. Acceptance is not about judging or condoning behavior. It is about embracing. We do not have to like a child's behavior in order to embrace and accept the child. Welcoming all children into our faith communities is an act of radical hospitality. One of the ways we can become more accepting of the children we label is to find ways to see the world through the child's eyes, to discover the divine in each child. When we can see the world through the child's eyes, we often become much more creative about how to include all children in the life of the church community. Does everyone have the index card provided at the beginning of the service? Is there anyone here who doesn't have one? Everyone has one? If there's anyone who doesn't, could you raise your hand? Okay, Bill, you don't have one? There should be one in the, Dinah, is there one in the front? Linda? So Bill and Dinah don't have, Bill and Linda. Does everyone have a pen? Need a pen too. Okay. And Linda doesn't have. Thank you, Dinah. Okay. Right. On your index card provided in the order of the service, well, actually that were just handed out, write on one side the word deficits. Write on one side the word deficits. Deficits at the top. And list 2 to 3 things you do not like about yourself. About yourself. 2 to 3 things that you don't like about yourself. About the things, 2 to 3 things you do not like about yourself, that you dislike about yourself. And then when you're finished, if you could raise your hand so I could see when I could move on. A few people still working. Okay, we're all good? Okay, okay, right. On the other side, write the word gifts and list 2 to 5 things that you like about yourself. This time, things that you like. Okay, could I see a show of hands, people who are finished? We all good? Okay. All right, next. Hold the deficit side facing out against your chest. Close your eyes and take a few minutes and imagine that everyone you meet only sees this side of you. They only talk to you from this perspective. What would the conversations be like, and how would you feel? When you want to talk about something you feel good about, the person only responds to what they see on the front of the piece of your paper. They only see the deficits, and they will probably try to fix you. How do you think you would react and treat them? Now release these thoughts to the universe. Now, hold the gift side facing out next to your chest. Take a few moments to imagine that the people you meet can only see this side of you. They can only talk to you from this perspective. What would the conversations be like, and how would you feel? They see all your strengths and gifts and think you take care of yourself. They do not try to fix anything. How do you think you would react and treat them? Children who have been labeled with a disability or disorder, or those who are perceived as weird or difficult, walk around as if they have a piece of paper plastered to their chest, labeling all their deficits. And in this society, we have a tendency to want to fix them. We hear a child is autistic, and we immediately assume he will be difficult to handle. Or we hear a child is mentally retarded, and we assume she has limited abilities. Or we hear a child is struggling in school, and we assume he is not very smart or just lazy. We hear a child has ADD, attention deficit disorder, and we assume she will be a troublemaker. And then we expect all of these children to behave according to our assumptions. It often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we wonder why some of our labeled children are so angry and difficult. From our reading, Judith Snow points out, we live in a world that follows the disability paradigm, in which we define people by what is wrong with them, and then we feel sorry for them and want to fix them, and they become special and then are entitled to special services. Then the fight becomes us versus them. Judith proposes that instead we create a world based on the giftedness paradigm, in which every person, not just a few, but every single person, is seen as having differences which offer opportunities for meaningful interaction and spiritual connection. Because we choose to believe that each person is different from the next person, then no one difference should be more normal than the next. Most people in our culture, social service professionals, doctors, teachers, school professionals, and even ourselves, operate within the disability paradigm, in which we decide certain types of differences have to be fixed. As much as the special education law has been a godsend for parents trying to get educational services for their child, it perpetuates the deficit model of thinking. I am one of the first to be thankful for the law. And I also realize that sometimes a diagnosis can bring relief to years of confusion and suffering, because now there seems to be a reason for the behavior and perhaps a method of treatment. But it is a double-edged sword. It can lead to fixing it rather than seeing the whole child and the child's gifts. It also, as demonstrated by our activity, can lead to assumptions of expected behavior based on the label. So, have we gone too far? Are we narrowly defining what is normal, so more and more children are forced into the special needs label? When we talk about hospitality in our churches, we are addressing issues of inclusion and exclusion, or as Judith defines it, disability versus giftedness paradigms. As demonstrated by our labeling activity, our entire culture excludes people based on labels, differences, their color, their sex, their race, their religion, their age, how they are dressed, how much money they make, where they went or go to school, and the list goes on and on. Father Holman says, hospitality has an inescapable moral dimension to it. It is not a mere social grace. It is a spiritual and ethical issue. It is an issue involving what it means to be human. All our talk about hospitable openness doesn't mean anything as long as some people continue to be tossed aside. Hospitality puts an end to injustice. But calling hospitality a moral issue does not tell us the whole truth about hospitality either. A moral issue can become bogged down in legalisms, and hospitality is no legalistic ethical issue. It is instead a spiritual practice, a way of becoming more human, a way of understanding yourself. Hospitality is both the answer to modern alienation and injustice, and a path to deeper spirituality. I'm going to take 2 minutes to process all of this. I'll be back. Okay, thank you for that. A spiritual practice is an action designed to make a change in our deepest selves. It is something we do to gain new understanding of ourselves and leads to growth, change, and a more loving way to be in the world. We stretch ourselves in spiritual practice. Meditation, prayer, walking mindfully, hiking, and feeding the homeless can all be forms of spiritual practice. Father Holman says, because hospitality always involves giving something of ourselves to others, it is a spiritual practice. Spirituality is about relationship. It requires us to take chances, to face our fears, to change, and to grow. Accepting people different from ourselves means acknowledging our fears. We live in a fear-based culture in which we fear those who are different from us. It has become even more acute since 9/11. Fear of others chokes out love. Hospitality is risky and is courageous and calls us to confront and sit with our fear of those who are different. Only then can we feel a transforming love. The act of hospitality heals us as individuals and as faith communities. We all know that merely being nice to people does not always change us. We sometimes go through the motions without being affected. The hospitality espoused by Saint Benedict requires us to make connections with those who we feel are different and then are personally transformed. I have found that it is those parents who embrace the opportunity of their special needs child that provides for healing and growth, who are personally transformed by their parenting experience instead of staying stuck in the pain and the why me syndrome. Connecting with a child who is struggling can be simple. It does not necessarily mean making every child your best friend. It means listening to children's stories. When we listen to children's stories, we will learn something we never would have learned. Children are rarely listened to. So often their desires and wants are ignored by the adult who believes they know best. We make assumptions about our children's behavior all the time. We make assumptions based on the labels and our past experience. So often when we parent, befriend, or minister to children, we have to confront our own fears. Children often reflect our own past hurts and disappointments. Sometimes we do not understand their behavior, and as adults, we feel we have to control the behavior or we panic. Give yourself the gift of a question. Ask the child why they are behaving the way they are, but ask from a place of respect and acceptance. Then listen. Listening is one of the ways we see the world through the child's eyes. Listening is one of the ways we see the divine in each child. Father Homan says, listening is the core of hospitality, and while the people we listen to benefit, in the end, we are the ones that are transformed. Benedict doesn't call us to listen on the surface. He wants us to listen with the ears of the soul. Listen way down deep. You know the place. It's the same place that weeps at the sight of a newborn. The same place that falls silent at the edge of a mountain. The same place that reaches for a falling sparrow. Listen from that place. Being able to see the world from the child's eyes means being willing to drop the labels and the assumptions. As Father Homan says, the walls only come down when the labels are changed into human faces. It means accepting the divine presence of every child. Operating from the giftedness paradigm helps us understand the idea that God does not make mistakes. Even for those who question the existence of God, this notion has profound implications for children with special challenges. Believing that ability to accept them into our congregation, minister to, or parent them. We must be able to see the wholeness of spirit instead of only brokenness or deficits. Otherwise, we lose sight of the whole child and his or her unique gift to the world. This is a lesson for all of us, to see wholeness of spirit for all the children in our church. The lessons from embracing the opportunity children with special needs provide for us healing and growth are many. It is not the events in our lives that shape our destiny, but the decisions we make about those events. We can turn obstacles into opportunities by choosing how we think and how we respond. We can embrace the opportunities or obstacles that come our way as lessons to be learned with many blessings, or we can choose to think of these obstacles as barriers. In many people's minds, Judith Snow's life is filled with insurmountable obstacles. Judith chooses to see her life differently and attracts people to help her break down the walls and obstacles that would keep her confined and helpless so she can be the visionary that she is. Radical hospitality is about preparing a place at the table for all who enter our church. Preparation says, you are welcome, you are accepted, you are honored. Margaret Mead's famous phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, may be overused, but it rings so true. Sometimes it takes an entire church community to raise a child. And in order to do this, we must adopt an attitude of hospitality that is based on seeing the divine in every child, confronting our fears of differences, listening to children's stories with an open heart, and seeing each child's life as holy ground. And holy ground is often risky ground. As a congregation, we can embrace the opportunity that each child and adult who crosses the threshold into our church provides us to be in a community that sees differences as gifts and opportunities for meaningful interaction and spiritual connection. We know in our hearts that no adult or child is a mistake. They are whole unto themselves in God's eyes. We are all here as unique spiritual beings in physical bodies, having a variety of different experiences. Thank you. Our closing hymn is For the Weaving of Our Lives by Amandus Udis Kessler. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand in body or spirit and join us in singing the projected hymn, For the Weaving of Our Lives.
For the weaving of our lives on the loom of joy and grace, warp of love that holds our hearts, lift of faith we add each day. All creation hears our song, we are woven kind and strong. For the thread that each of us offers to the world's design, fabric of 1,000 hues, heart and hands and soul and mind. All creation hears our prayer as we weave a world of care. For the web that binds us all gently in its tangled skein, babies cry and prophets call, strands of peace and strands of pain. Dear creation, may that we yet repair your tapestry.
Spirit of love and of life, be with our children as they journey out from us. Fill their hearts with courage and strength and tenderness. Help them to tell their truth about who they are and all that they see. Help us to listen in a way that lets them speak. Help us all to reach out using our minds and bodies and words, trusting our wise and growing hearts, to truly make our classrooms and our workplaces, our homes and our churches and our world safe and nurturing places for all. Fill us all with courage and help us to know that wherever we go in love. May it be so, and amen. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. So I guess I'm stepping in for worship associate at the end. So thank me. Thank me for sharing my time in the reading with us this morning. Thank you. So this service was not a personal sermon written by anyone in our church. Would some of you like to stay and share some discussion or observations, even though it's not, you know, one of our personal writings? Yes? Okay. All right. So, we'll be in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes to share some discussions, both in the sanctuary and online. Please be aware that these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you are now welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Okay. So would anyone like to come up and share their thoughts? Pat?
This sermon really reminded me, there's this wonderful Benedictine monastery up in Palm Desert that I used to go to. I had friends who were Catholic and who joined as oblates or something. Anyway, and then they would have programs. But I would go there for like the weekend. Lovely place, great food, nice rooms, private, quiet in the desert. And the Benedictine monks, they were just wonderful. They would do things like come up to you after breakfast when you could talk again, because it was in silence from dinner to after breakfast. They would come and say, "How did you sleep?" And I don't know how often it's been since somebody asked you that, but it's really nice to have someone that hospitable. And they really were. They took it seriously. Anyway, I wanted to tell you about that, and just that the Benedictine rule of hospitality is really a gift.
Thank you, Pat. Bill?
There was that passage in there where they were saying, don't judge, I'd say as humans, we're not going to be able to escape judgment. But especially when it comes to kids and making a welcome spot for them and making them feel like from a fairly early age on that you are interested in what they have to say and what they feel. Yeah, judge, but don't make it this gigantic clumping granite weight of a thing. Make your judgment and be ready to be wrong. And if you're wrong, change it. And as they said in that example over there, I am more than the weight of my flaws. I'm more than the weight of my virtues. And sometimes I'm just sort of a clouded reflection of everything else. To be human is to never be playing off of one script entirely anyway, which is incredibly annoying because it would be so much easier to fix that way.
I'm boring. Linda?
So I have one question. I actually really liked that. It was very eye-opening in regards to that was very eye-opening in regards to that we have a habit of treating people with special needs as special, which does in fact isolate them from being normal. And I had never looked at it that way. So I found that very enlightening for me. Beyond that, my one question is that with kids with disabilities, sometimes they're affected by chemicals in their brain. All people, whoever has disabilities. Sometimes those chemicals do things like shut down people's walls on how they treat each other, so they're more angry, they're more aggressive, their attitude. There are several emotional diseases that do that. So how do you deal with, and then those children go out in society and they do what they do. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that in accepting that's who they are, but also because they're destructive, you can't necessarily leave them in an environment, so immediately you're making them special? That's my question.
Anyone have any thoughts on that? I don't think I have the the knowledge to answer that kind of question. Do we have some thoughts on that? Pat?
When I did RE here, we had some children that would not cooperate and disrupted the class. And my rule was they went back to the parents right away. I'm just not tolerating anybody that won't cooperate. And I don't regret that, because you had a group of kids and you're trying to do something, and I don't think you should let somebody disrupt it. I see now lots of times that parents tolerate kids disrupting and they're fine with it. And I'm not, and I'm old school. But I'd be interested in how other people deal with it. I think it's really important in a group that people respect the group or they don't get to be part of the group. But that's old school.
My brother was a destructive child. He constantly sat out of his seat. He would throw chairs. He would take his books and throw them off of his desk. And it wasn't because he was angry. I mean, he was, of course he was, but he was also bored in his class. He wasn't entertained. A lot of kids, they become what we consider disruptive because they don't follow what we tell them to do, what we want them to do. And in reality, they're just trying to entertain themselves. And sometimes they don't realize that they're disrupting other people. It wasn't until my brother was in 4th grade when a teacher, instead of sending him out of the classroom or calling our mother to come and handle him, a teacher took him out of the class and sat with him and learned from his perspective why he was doing something. She actually tried to connect with him for the first time. Nobody had ever done that. And from that point on, he'd stopped being disruptive. Sure, he sometimes sat out of his seat, but he was quiet about it. He still did his work. He was just under the desk. It wasn't disruptive. He wasn't disturbing other people. It's just somebody allowed him to be himself without him feeling wronged for it. And I think that's the best way to deal with a disruptive child or somebody who, or a kid, or even just a human who does something that you don't think is right or proper. You learn where they're coming from, you learn their perspective, and then you give them coping mechanisms or like 5 minutes just to simmer down, and then invite them to be part of the group again if they're able to calm down instead of just kicking them out.
Thank you. It seems that improvement or progress never comes from a place of condemnation. I think condemnation often puts up barriers of understanding, and a more productive way would probably be, as the speaker just said, is just to try to understand the other perspective of the person that we see as different. I think children are little human beings. They're not a different species from us. They know less than us because of experience. And we were all children once. And I think that it's a common experience, and we're all different. And we should treat each other like human beings. Anyone else? Walt?
Well, this might be a bit rambling, but this family, this guy was very proud of his 6 o'clock in the evening drink of alcohol, mixed alcohol, but he was a math teacher in Lowell High School, which was a prestigious school in San Francisco. So my parents were impressed with him. He came up to his summer home every year on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Anyway, that's the background. He had a child. He had 2 children. he would play and cavort with the girl, and the boy he'd ignore. The result was we'd go down there for dinner, and the little boy would meet us outside. He'd immediately reach down to the gravel on the ground and throw rocks at us. So it was a little bit painful to go and visit them. Once they got a little bit older, they came to my parents' house all the time when they'd first come up for dinner when they first arrived from San Francisco. And then when they went back to the Bay, they'd stop for breakfast. And they weren't trained to be nice to a dog, so they'd pull my dad's Springer Spaniel's ears and tail, scaring the dog a great deal. So Dad said to me, well, you should do something. So I brought out my HO gauge train to distract the kids, and it worked perfectly. They left the dog alone from that point on. I then became a hit with the kids, and I was in love with a tape recorder, just like the model that I bring here whenever I talk. And because I was in the local thespians in high school with high school kids who put on little skits for a radio show for a while until the radio decided nobody was listening and kicked us off. But that's where I got the idea. So I tape record these children. There was another family as well as with the alcoholic with his two kids. I tape record those kids, and they do what all children do. They talk about the red and pink carnation, over the shoulder, boulder holder, all the same corny jokes. Anyway, my dad mentioned to me, he said, you shouldn't be taping. You should destroy those tapes immediately. And I thought, well, these are our liberal friends. And my dad told me any liberals are perfect people. But he had found from his first marriage, he had a bunch of tapes that he made with his first wife. So then when he remarried my mom, he found those tapes conflicted. And so he found he had to get rid of those tapes. So he tried to tell me about that, but I was, I think, in college by then. So of course, when you're in college, you think you know everything. So I continued taping his kids until the kids were too old. They didn't want to hear their corny little jokes anymore. And then that alcoholic parent got very upset. He said he demanded that I turn over all the tapes, and he would probably destroy them, but he'd make copies for the children if they wanted them. And this really upset me. So I took a giant horseshoe magnet to the tapes and just destroyed them by erasing them. Anyway, so that's my story of interacting with children when I was a great hit with them for a while. Ultimately, I became not a hit with the parents and the alcoholic and his wife, because I destroyed one of the tapes that their daughter liked, a skit that we made. They were angry with me for the rest of my life. Figure that one.
Thank you all. Is there anyone online who'd like to join conversation? No? Okay. All right. Anyone else? We're all good. All right. So thank you for your participation, and that concludes the service. And please feel free to go out into the parish hall and have more fellowship. Thank you for being here.